like to introduce our guests when we're starting, but I have to tell you, Joshua Vickery, I have no idea how many hats you really wear. I know that you are the founder and executive director of Central Florida Community Arts, but would you tell us some of your other titles?
Oh, goodness. Well, I'm uncle to Landon and Jackson and Alyssa. I'm now dad to Huckleberry, my 11-week-old puppy, which is probably my biggest hat I wear right now, actually. He is a Goldador, so he's half Golden Retriever and half Labrador. And
I have to ask you at this point, Joshua, are you wearing shoes and socks?
Yeah. Yes, because he's not in the room. So one of his puppy sitters are watching him out in the other room, so it's totally fine. Yeah, I made a joke today on social media about that. I feel like I've accomplished a lot, but the hardest thing I've ever tried to do is put on socks and shoes when my puppy is around. It's nearly impossible. Yeah, so those are two fun personal things, but I'm the founder and executive director of Central Florida Community Arts. And I also get to do a lot of other wonderful things. I started a company a couple of years ago called JV Creative. And so I get to travel the country and speak and consult and talk about the work that we're doing here. We're working on this being more of a national model of how communities can come together in all the disciplines of the performing arts for people of all ages. But I also serve on 9 different boards, which keeps me really busy. 3 of them are national. And so I wear many hats and I enjoy them all.
So I'm very interested in the foundation that you just mentioned, the DB Creative.
JV Creative.
JB, sorry. JV Creative, obviously. JV. Okay. My question for that is, how is that working right now in COVID?
Well, it's a good question. It is slowed down a whole lot. So I was, before COVID, of course, I was getting to do some great speaking and consulting and working in other communities, and the arts are really hurting right now, specifically the performing arts. It's very difficult for dance and music and theater to come back in a very safe way. And we have a little bit of an advantage because we're a community arts organization. So although we pay all of our staff and our teaching artists and our creative people, we aren't paying professional artists because that's not our mission. So it's a little bit easier for us to come back from a financial standpoint. And then safety-wise, we've had to make a whole lot of adjustments to what we do. But many organizations across the country simply can't open because it's financially not feasible to be able to do so when you can only sell 40 to 50% of your house. You're not able to pay your bills and not able to keep open. So the statistics right now are only about 15% of performing arts organizations, professional and community, across the country are doing anything right now. Most are completely dormant or playing videos of past shows or things like that. But as far as creating new work, doing new things, only 15% of organizations are doing that. I sit on the board of Chorus America, which is the national chorus organization. And the statistics there are even lower. Only about 12% of choruses across the country are rehearsing and performing.
Well, I wasn't going to do this at this point, but you segued so beautifully. I have to tell you, Joshua, as a person who loves the arts and who is a creative person myself, I have been so impressed with your willingness to come out, basically, about how difficult this time is for your mental health. And I think that is a huge issue for virtually everybody in the arts right now, but most of us aren't saying anything. You came out, and I'm just going to read one of the lines that really hit me. You said, "My mental health is not wonderful recently, and yours may not be either." And I just appreciated that so much because it allowed so many people to comment and find support for each other. It is one of the most important things I think you've done since COVID started, to just admit how hard this is. We are trying financially, we're trying to get something out there virtually, but it is very taxing emotionally, and it's not fair not to admit that ever.
Mm.
So I
Well,
appreciate it
wow.
personally, and I am so glad you did that.
Well, I appreciate that very much. I think if you are given any type of leadership, you should use your platform to help others in whatever capacity that may be. And I surround myself every day with artists and with creative people, and I feel the hurt that they're feeling. And I think it's okay to not be okay right now. I think it's good to look for the positive and to stay above water as much as we can. But I also think that if you aren't talking about it, if you're not admitting it, you know, social isolation, anxiety, depression, those are real things that people are dealing with. And that's not just in the arts world, but that's all of us, our lives have been turned upside down. And it's okay to say, I'm not the best I should be right now. I'm not at my best, but I'm working towards it. And so I think that's really important, and that's healthy for us to be able to do that. And one of the things the arts do is it brings us connection. It brings us empathy. It brings us belonging. It brings us perspective. And so I know our community is missing that. I know those that love the arts are missing that part of who they are. And so it's huge. And you know, we live in a community that is built on tourism. We know this. And with tourism comes our theme parks and our convention industry and all of that. And so a lot of our creative people are connected to that industry. And so right now, about 80% of our creative workforce is still furloughed or have been laid off. And there's nowhere for them to go. You know, if just Disney is hurting, then they go to Universal, or they go get gigs at conventions, or they go to SeaWorld, or they go to Fun Spot, right? Like,
Or
but,
church jobs. I
or
mean,
church jobs, right? Yeah. Well,
they
and
have church jobs, they have weddings, they have events. Usually they're all pretty much freelance,
yeah.
and they have 45 jobs because it's a gig here and a gig there. And now there's nowhere to go.
Yeah, and for performers, typically there are a couple of jobs that they can fall back on, right? They can wait
Right.
tables, they can work in hotels, but unfortunately that's not an option either.
A lot of them teach, and that's been harder too.
Yeah. So it's definitely a trying time. It feels like an uphill battle. I have to tell you, you know, we're back in a hybrid of programs. We had a 300 voice community choir, largest community choir in the entire country. And now we can only have 40 people in a huge gym sitting 8 feet apart wearing masks. And that's not fun, right? It's just not. We're doing it because it's a step in the right direction, but some of that joy has been you know, kind of robbed from us in the arts a little bit. And I know there will be another side of it, and we're working towards that as much as we can. But one of the bright things is, I'll give you some bright news, is that at CFC Arts, we actually physically shut down our spaces on March the 13th. And on March the 16th, Monday, you know, we were named the Community Builder of the Year by the City of Orlando just the week before we shut down. And so we thought, we are responsible to keep going, right? We have to keep people creative and connected in this dark time if we truly are a community builder. And so we reimagined a lot of that we do, and we continue to virtually connect with people through music therapy and classes and workshops and all sorts of things. And so over the course of our shutdown, we were able to reach about 15,000 people individually through lessons and workshops and classes and all the things that we were offering. So we felt really good about being able to do that. Now, what's happened is, because virtual world has no geographic limitations, we're now reaching people outside of Central Florida and even outside of our state, and even across the world. We did a play that was in Spanish, and we were able to cast an international cast from Venezuela, from Brazil, from Mexico. And so just some neat stuff is happening. We just signed a deal this week with Graystar, which is a company that has senior living facilities across the entire country, about 200 of them. And they have brought us on to offer workshops and classes to all of their senior living facilities across the country. So some neat things are coming out of this, but it's definitely not the same.
Well, I'm going to read before we leave some of this sadness behind. What you wrote is that I'm an empath. I feel it in a very real way and I take it on. I want all of you to know I just want to do more, help more, be more. What should I be doing that I am not? If you are reading this, I know you have your own stuff. Please know you are loved. It's okay to reach out for help or a good cry. We will get to the other side. Encourage one another, inspire in the moments you can, listen and be real. And I want to thank you for that, Joshua.
Oh, thanks.
That has touched so many people.
Well, thank you for that. Wasn't expecting that. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Well, you never know what to expect with me. I'm sorry, but that's how life with me goes. I do want to talk about what you're doing. You were talking about some of that before we actually got started. You want to run back by that first?
Sure, yeah. So we stayed completely virtual from March until August. And in April, we put together a working group, and that was medical professionals, our board members, community leaders, staff members. And for 3.5 months, we did our research. We worked with national consultants. We worked with Orlando Health and Advent Health, and we created a safety plan that was endorsed by both of our medical communities to be able to start to bring back performing arts programs in a hybrid of safe ways. And so we have, it's taken a whole lot of work. Like I said, it's uphill battles, but our kids program, our orchestra, and our choir is meeting now. Between those 3 areas and then some of the other programs that we're doing, we have 524 people who are participating in in-person programmings right now on multiple campuses. We're using very, 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 very large spaces, and we only allow 40 people in a gym that holds 700. And so it's difficult, but we're starting to get back. We're doing our first concert at Mead Garden with our orchestra on October 31st. We're doing a Halloween concert. And then we're doing several concerts over the holiday season outdoors. We're actually partnering with so we were given the rights to the candlelight music. Everybody heard of the candlelight music at Disney? Derek Johnson actually gave us the rights to perform that. So we're going to be out in the community in several places on the Dr. Phillips Center lawn, out at Lake Nona, in downtown, performing that music for our community. So you can hear live, beautiful holiday music. And then we are partnering with Valencia College. Their film and audio department is going to be taping one of those performances. So on Christmas Eve, people can tune in and hear that music virtually on Christmas Eve. So lots of neat things happening with us. It's, again, definitely not the same, but we're getting back very, very slowly.
Does anybody else have any questions for Josh right now?
Yeah, I do. Josh, right now you say you're out of your facilities. Will you be back in the church again, or will you find new facilities?
Yeah, we hope to be back in the church again, Matt. So we, we're over 5 counties. So we had over 100 physical locations in 5 counties, community centers, after school programs, churches, service agencies. So a lot of that community partnership work is just virtual. So we're using about 6 or 7 physical campuses right now. The church is one of them just for our offices. So our senior staff is back in the offices because we all have our own individual office, but our whole team is not back yet. So we are actually not using anything other than the office space, but we hope to be back. We actually are using the courtyard. So if you guys have ever been to our theater, that beautiful courtyard that you see when you first walk up, we're going to be programming that over all of November, December with cabarets. So outdoor holiday cabarets with wonderful singers and performers with only 50 seats because we have to social distance and all that fun stuff. But it'll be a really pretty intimate space. So we're not in the black box. It's just not safe enough to be in that space yet. It's too small. So we're doing mostly outdoor concerts and events.
How much of your staff have you had to furlough during this thing?
Gratefully, Matt, I haven't had to furlough anyone.
Really?
To keep my entire staff. Yeah.
I'm impressed.
In fact, I think I'm the only arts organization that was able to keep everybody through the whole pandemic. I have 24 full-time staff members, and I was able to keep all of them employed. In fact, something that's really cool is Career Source, which is our job partnership organization in our community. they were able to get money from the CARES grant, the federal CARES grant, to put people back to work in 8-week, what they call training internships. So the CEO, Pam Neighbors, came to me about 6 or 7 weeks ago and said, we'd love for you to be the arts organization to put some people back to work on a limited basis. So we actually took on 21 furloughed creative artists, performers, directors, stage managers, and for 10 weeks, they're on our staff and being paid for 40 hours a week at $15 an hour by the federal government. So my staff went from 24 to 45. Wow. In a matter of like 3 days, this all happened. But it's great because they're working as health and safety monitors. They're working in our youth programs and helping out. They're working with our marketing teams. You know, it's been great for us. But my team pretty much doubled for at least the next 8 weeks.
Question about your donors. Have you been able to maintain a good percentage of your donors?
We have, yeah. We had an amazing collaborative campaign through United Arts. A lot of that was response giving. People were really, really helping the arts continue and to keep organizations going. We also just celebrated our 10th anniversary on September 27th. So people were very gracious to us. We raised over $100,000.
Wow.
Just specifically to the anniversary. So it was a very, very gracious, our donors have been very gracious to us. Now there are some who aren't able to give, you know. We have an army of grassroots givers because of who we are. Our artists, friends and family and neighbors like to give small gifts to us. And so that we don't have a whole lot of major givers. We have a whole lot of people who are just generous with what they have. And so some of that has changed because people aren't able to do so because of not having their job or different things have happened in their family. So that has changed a little bit, but thankfully, most of our donors have been able to keep supporting us. And there are multiple donors on this call today. So thank you to those of you that support CFC Arts. I'm very grateful.
We have a question from Max Reed.
Yes.
Yes, I'm curious about what kind of music you play for a Halloween concert. I'm thinking witchcraft and that old black magic. Is that the kind of thing you do?
They're doing some stuff from like the Halloween parade at Disney. They're doing Grinning Ghosts. They're doing stuff from the Nightmare Before Christmas. They're doing the Hall of the Mountain King. So there's some kind of classical spooky stuff, some Disney stuff, but I don't know, it's not really witchcraft. More the lighter side of Halloween.
I should think so. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Russell? You need to unmute, Russell.
Yeah, I was just figuring out how to do that. Give me a second here. Sometimes I'm a little slower than I would like to be. Joshua, thank you for coming in. It's funny because I just got an email from your group this morning talking about your Christmas programs, and it was talking about the, the holiday Fantasia. And that's going to be what, in Mead Gardens? And is that going to be just 40 people, or is that going to be a larger group than that?
Yeah, that'll be a larger group. So we're meeting in groups of 40, but we're actually having 3 different choir practices right now. So there'll be about 120 singers that will perform. And unfortunately, the stage at Mead Garden can only social distance with 8 feet all the way around about 60 singers. So we're gonna have to go all the way out across the grass, across the whole front there where the stage is. But it'll be about 120 singers that'll perform for Holiday Fantasia.
You know, I'm not familiar with that stage at Mead Gardens. Is there a large enough area for visitors and people who are interested? And also, are there going to be tickets available for that, or how's that going to work?
Those are great questions, Russell. By the way, my dad's name is Russell, so that's a beautiful name. Yes, so Mead Garden it's an amphitheater. They call it the Grove. So it's a big grassy bowl area. So you have to bring a blanket or a chair, like a lawn chair, something like that. And that gives us the ability for people to social distance as well. But we can only sell 300 tickets. Usually it seats 1,100, but because we want to be safe, we work with the City of Winter Park and reduced the capacity to only 300 people. So tickets are on sale. We already sold 150 in our first day today. So there's only 150 seats left. So if you want, them, go get them. But we are talking about maybe doing a second show that day because people are wanting to get out, and especially if it's outdoors and they can get in their space. People are wanting to hear live music. So
yeah. Plus, I think for the holidays, people really enjoy these programs. And so that leads to my other question. It says that you're going to be doing a Christmas Carol, a musical version of a Christmas Carol, which I always, every year I see some version of A Christmas Carol somewhere because I like it so much. So I wondered if you could talk a little bit about that. It says it's a musical version, and where is that going to be held and how's that going to play out?
Yeah, good. So A Christmas Carol is actually going to be done by our students. So we have a very, very large youth program. Usually we see about 2,000 kids a week. That is much, much smaller now in a variety of ways. But our kids that are auditioned are doing A Christmas Carol. There's actually going to be 80 kids in this show and in this play. And it will be at Calvary Church on their big main stage, where that's where it will be. That's the biggest stage we can find to keep those kids apart and pull off Christmas Carol.
How many people will be able to attend?
Well, the good thing about Calvary is it seats 4,400. So we can safely seat about 1,500 in that space. So there are plenty of seats for A Christmas Carol.
Since that is such a wonderful venue, there it's so large. I've been to many of your programs, at the church, and it's quite small. And sometimes intimacy is nice, but sometimes a large stage with a large group is nice. Will you? Is that something that you might consider for some future programs as well?
Yeah, so our choir and our orchestra perform in very large churches all the time. So at Northland Church in Seminole is where our big choir has always performed since 2011.
Yeah, I forgot.
And then Calvary is where our orchestra has performed since 2014. So thankfully, those two churches have been great partners for those two. And then our theater, which you've experienced, is at the smaller venue, the 100-seat Black Box. But I was saying earlier in the very beginning, we're actually going to be changing that up a little bit, and we're going to be taking theater out into multiple venues across our community.
One last question on that, A Christmas Carol. What kind of music is that going to be? Is it just going to be, is it specific music that was written for A Christmas Carol, or is it just going to be Christmas music?
I think it's a little bit of both. There is music that was written specifically for A Christmas Carol, but some of it is some of your traditional classical Christmas music that you would hear.
Great, thank you.
Of course.
I was wondering about your funding. You said you had a lot of donors. How much do you get from private donors? How much come from the government?
That's a great question. So we actually are a $1.8 million organization. So we're a very large arts organization, and we are membership based. So all of our community artists pay a small membership due to perform with us to help cover the costs. So between contracted services, ticket sales, membership dues, the work that we do out in the community with libraries and all sorts of stuff, that makes up about half. It actually makes up 55% of our total budget. And then about 45% of our total income comes from philanthropy. And that's broken up into individual giving, corporate sponsorships and corporate giving, grants, which comes from private foundations, and then federal funding, and then community events. So the largest portion of our giving is individual giving. Last year we had about $350,000 of that came from individual giving. And then corporate sponsorships is around between $90,000 and $100,000. And then the biggest piece of the puzzle is, of course, grants. And that does include our state grants, United Arts grant, cultural tourism grant, but that makes about $400,000, between about $400,000 and $425,000.
Thank you.
That was probably way too many numbers that you wanted to hear, but that's about how we're divided out.
I had a question from Ann Murrah. She's not able to be here this evening, but she wanted to ask, what happened with the book you were writing?
Good question. I am seriously almost done, but then this little thing called COVID came along, and I had to completely rebuild our entire organization. So I'm really close. Just a couple more chapters, actually. I hope to finish it, hopefully by the middle of next year is the goal.
Okay, and then what's going to happen with the book? Is that going to be available in venues like Amazon, or is that going to be something that you sell through your own organization? Do you have plans?
Yeah, so the book is called The Heart of a Mission, with ART capitalized, and then it's Vision to Community Changer. And so the whole book is about how do you take an idea that actually started in a garage with us. We had a group of people in a garage that met together. 10 years ago, and how do you turn that into what's truly a community changer? And so that book is going to be released here locally, but it will be on Amazon. It'll be sent out through Amazon, and then because I get to be in so many national circles, hopefully other communities will pick it up as well.
Wonderful.
Thanks for asking.
And also, well, and
it's
also
a reminder I got to get it done.
and also wanted to know how on earth you find time for everything that you do, because she knows you travel a lot and she knows that you always seem to be here working. How do you find the time?
Yeah, you have to be very creative with scheduling for sure. I have a wonderful assistant who helps me run my life. But you know, what I try to do is I do love to travel, and I try to put a day or two of rest on whatever business I'm trying to do or take care of or be a part of. And so, you know, I post more about my fun than I do my work sometimes, which I think is healthy. But yeah, I do some travel. I do a good amount of traveling, but I'm here Monday through Friday normally, and my days are long. 10 or 12-hour days are very typical for me. You know, COVID has actually really been good for me. It's helped me kind of reset, because at leading this large arts organization and then doing all the things that I was doing, it was really 7 days a week. And it'd start with an early breakfast and end with some kind of rehearsal or show or gala or Chamber of Commerce reception or something, you know, every night. And so I was working too much, way too much. So COVID has slowed me down a little bit, which is good. Hopefully I can find that balance on the other side of this.
I think you're still going faster than most of us.
I don't know how not to, though. I think that's just the way I'm built. So I don't know that I would be able to completely slow down if I tried.
Josh, I've got a question. Are you still the choir director at the church on Sunday?
I am. That's another hat that I didn't talk about. So yes, I still do that, Matt. I do.
Which brings me back to another of Anne's questions. How much of what you do is faith-driven?
Oh, that's a good question. So my degree is in church music, and I started out in leading music and full music programs in several large churches. In 2010, I left church music and I actually went to Disney, and I was a casting director for Disney Entertainment and a vocal performance manager for Disney Entertainment. And it was there that I started CFC Arts in 2010. My dad's a pastor. I am a man of faith. And so that drives me a lot from the place of just wanting to serve the community, wanting to give back, wanting to be a person of compassion and grace and forgiveness. I think that's where a lot of my empathy comes from. But for me, you know, faith for some people is about judgment and about, you know, browbeating. For me, faith is about love. And that's what I try to model to others. So faith does drive me a lot. And it's been a part of the DNA of CFC Arts from the very beginning, is I wanted it to be this safe, encouraging, welcoming place for all artists. And that's been a part of who we are since day one.
I've always suspected that. I mean, honestly, well, no, anyone who has that much regard for every individual has some sort of faith system behind it, typically.
Yeah.
So,
well, I'm grateful. I'm grateful for my faith journey, and you know, it's one of those things where if you know me, you know that it's a part of my life, but it's also something that, because I want to be inclusive, I make sure that people know that whatever they choose is good with me, because each human has the right to choose their own journey and their own destiny. So. These are good questions. We're getting deep here. This is good stuff. I should have brought a glass of wine for this.
well, some of us did.
Hey, Joshua.
Yeah.
I have a question. Going back to your medical musical task force. I mean, we're at a place now with a very small participation versus what we were able to do before, you know, in group size. And we want to get back to kind of normal, what we would call the old normal. Did your task force lay out milestones or events that help you move in that direction, reducing social distancing, getting bigger groups together? What types of things have to happen for you to move along that path?
Yeah, Tim, absolutely. You know, so part of it was we had to put milestones in place for us to open back up at all. We went through a series of balances and checks with the numbers, with community spread, with what was happening with our school system. We did multiple polls and surveys among our people. And so that was one of the first balances and checks. Was before we even started, we had a ton of things that we did before we got ready to go. When we opened back up, we sent out anonymous surveys to all of our artists for the first 4 weeks so they could give us really candid feedback on how they felt. That we also created a feedback email and a dedicated phone line just for people to call me directly about their feedback. And so we were really intentional about safety. I have to tell you, out of the 524 people who came back in person in the variety of programs that we did, 410 returned their surveys. And honest truth, 100% of them out of the 424 people said they felt safe in our rehearsals. And that's a big testimony to the intentionality that we're doing behind the processes and behind what we're doing. So that there's balances and checks to get us started. There was really intentional follow-up when we first got going to make sure we were on the right track. But right now we have no plans of changing what we're doing. You know, it's so unknown about how the flu season and how fall and all of those things will happen that we're just basically taking it 1 week at a time. We accepted guiding principles as a part of our mission, and there are 4 words. It's flexibility, creativity, inclusivity, and safety. And so every decision we make, we filter through those 4 channels. But the safety piece, of course, is the biggest. But because things are so unknown, we are really taking it week by week by week. And a part of the programming that our amazing leaders have done is that we're able to pivot everything we're doing to virtual settings within a moment's notice. So that if anything happens, we're able to keep going, but it would be virtually. So I wish I could predict a little further out, but right now we knew what we needed to get started. We knew what we needed to get feedback, but we've decided that, you know, and we actually made the change, Tim. We actually were planning on doing more indoor concerts. And as we continue to listen, we realized that we needed to stay outdoors with our adult programs of all ages, you know, all ages other than our small kids. We needed to stay outdoors. And so we changed. It took us 18 venue tries. we changed, and all of our, whether it's in Lake Nona, whether it's downtown, out on the lawn, Dr. Phillips Center, at Mead Garden, we changed all of them to outdoor venues for November, December. So we will reevaluate everything again in January and see where our community stands, and we won't do anything that will jeopardize our people. And I guess your surveys kind of led you that way. Is that right? From indoors to outdoors? They did. Yeah, because one of the questions was, you know, what is your comfortability level in these different scenarios? And although a lot of people were comfortable being indoors for concerts, it was overwhelming majority said we're comfortable. It was like 96% said I would be comfortable outdoors. And so 96% versus like a 79 or 80% of I would be comfortable. And for us, that was a no-brainer. We need to listen to our artists. They want to be outdoors right now for concerts. So we made that change.
You mentioned having the practices with smaller groups. Are you also having shorter practices so that you can do these groups, or how are you making that work?
Yes, they're only 45-minute rehearsals, which if you've ever sat in one of my choir practices, 45 minutes is not enough time. I want more time. So we went from 2 hours to 45 minutes. Yeah.
Josh, do you have contingency plans for bad weather for your outdoor concerts?
Yeah, we have tentative rain dates that we have on hold at all the venues. So we can reschedule to those tentative rain dates, but we are hoping and hoping and hoping and praying that it will be beautiful weather. We're gonna manifest it together, Matt. We're gonna just claim it. But we do have rain dates with all of the venues. That's a good question.
Tell us a little bit about your background, where you grew up and studied and all that sort of thing.
Yeah. So I grew up in Virginia. I was born and raised in Petersburg, Virginia, not too far outside of Richmond. I lived there until I was in 7th grade. And then I moved to Vero Beach, Florida. And in Vero Beach, Florida is where I went to high school. And then I actually was not involved in music at all. Believe it or not, I was involved in student government. I was very big in student government. That was my world. And my senior year in high school, we had a really awesome choir at my high school. The class officers did the talent show, and I sang in the talent show. And the choir director said, "We need more guys for our show choir. If you come and sing, we're going to Austria for 2 weeks after graduation, and we'll give you a scholarship to go." And I was like, okay, cool. And I didn't know anything about music. I didn't know how to read music. I didn't know what a quarter note was. I didn't know half note or a rest. I knew nothing. So I joined choir my senior in high school, and I sang in the show choir, and I just learned. I listened to the guy next to me and matched his pitch, and like really had no idea what I was doing. And I actually wanted to go into politics. That was my first. I'm really glad I didn't now. Like, I'm really, really glad I didn't. I got saved in that decision. But my high school choir director said, if you go to the community college, which was Indian River Community College, they'll give you, if you make it into the music program, they'll give you a full scholarship for books and room and board and everything. And so what I did was, I went to the community college and I got my AA degree in music. And I worked, because I had a full scholarship, I worked and waited tables and did all sorts of stuff to get money those 2 years so that I could fully pay for my next 2 years. So I went away to Palm Beach Atlantic University in West Palm Beach, and I got my degree in church music. And so thankfully when I left, I didn't have any school loans. I had paid for it all between those 2 opportunities. And then I was in a very large church in West Palm Beach. And then I left there and I actually sang on the road for 2 years. I sang with a Christian singing group, traveled on a bus across the country and performed. And then after 2 years of that, I had had enough of the touring life. That was not for me either. I was done sleeping on a bus. And I moved back home with my parents at 24. And I was there in Vero Beach again, had no idea what I was gonna do. And there was a guy in my dad's church who was a principal of an elementary school in Gifford, Florida, which is right near Vero Beach, but it's actually a really under-resourced area. And there was an elementary school there that had, at the time, there were no caps on elementary school classrooms. So there were 40 fourth graders in this class, and they had run 3 teachers off in the first 3 weeks of school. So he said, will you come be a substitute teacher in this class? And so I thought, oh, I'll do it for a couple of weeks. It'll be some fun. And I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I ended up staying the entire year. So I was a 4th grade teacher for 1 full year. And I really, really loved it. But I also wasn't meant to be a 4th grade teacher either. So I got a call from a church here in Orlando that I had sung at when I was on the road, and they asked me to come and be their music director. And so that's when I moved to Orlando in 2003, and was in 2 large churches for 8 years. And then I went to Disney. So that's kind of a really long way of telling you my history. I'm from Virginia. That was the short answer.
Okay, Josh, you went that far. I think you need to take us into that garage and tell us how the rest of this happened.
Yeah, well, so I was casting director at Disney, and I was hosting auditions from people all over the world. And I would ask the question, when you're not performing or when you're not auditioning, where do you find community here in Orlando? Where do you belong? And 9 times out of 10 people said they didn't. They living 3, 4, 5 people in a house, waiting tables, trying to make it. And so when I started this, it was for that. It was to give people a place to find community, performers to find community, And that's when we started the choir. So I brought together 25 people, some friends from Disney, some from the church music background, some business people, into my garage. Now the garage did have carpet and air conditioning, but it still was a garage. And had a horrible PowerPoint presentation about how this choir was gonna change the world. And that night we incorporated as the Central Florida Community Choir. That was our first name. And over the next 3 months, we built the choir in a very grassroots way. We never placed the ad in the paper. We didn't even have a website. We did happy hours. We did coffee shop meetups. We had meetings in people's homes. So Diana and Tim, if I knew you, or Susan or Matt, if I knew you, or Kathy, then I would say, hey, can you host this meeting in your house and invite every singer you've ever known? And I would go and do a conversation about the choir. It was like worse than Mary Kay or Tupperware. Like seriously, we were like signing people up on the spot to sing in this choir. And I did about 40 of those over 3 months. And when we launched in February of 2011, we had 152 singers show up to the very first rehearsal. So we started with a bang, but it was a really cool, neat starting. We really started in a very grassroots way.
I don't know if you've looked around at who's in the room, but I think you know Susan Scullin from way back.
I do, yes.
Those
Hi,
days.
Susan. We just connected by email this week. Her daughter-in-law or daughter is going to be donating a violin to our organization.
No, it's actually mine.
Say it again, Susan. You muted.
No, she's
Hi,
Susan, I think
everybody.
you're muted.
Am I better?
better.
Okay. Actually, it's my nephew's girlfriend who's a violinist, and she wanted to donate a child's violin for. She said, "Where do I do this?" And I said, "I know exactly where you need to do that." So that's what happens. And they're coming down on Sunday and leaving on Tuesday. So somewhere in that time, they're going to drop off this child-sized violin for CFC Arts.
And they will make very good use of it.
I know.
I had another question for you, Joshua. My mom, as some of the people here know and some don't, has Alzheimer's. And one of the first things I learned about, oh, did we just lose Josh? I think we,
I got kicked out somehow. I'm so sorry.
okay. Sorry, Susan was talking to you and you disappeared.
I'm so sorry. It disappeared. I don't know what happened.
No, you're getting the violin. That's the good news.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So tell me again, the family member that.
It's her nephew's girlfriend.
Yeah,
is a
my nephew's.
violinist.
Nephew's
Go ahead.
girlfriend.
Yes,
Cool.
his girlfriend. They're taking a mini vacation together, and she's been his girlfriend for a while now. So, and this just came up, and she said, "I have a child-sized violin. Where would I donate this?" And I went, "Don't worry, I have a good home for it." I know right where that needs to go. She's actually very excited that it's going to you.
Oh, that's wonderful. We will put it to good use, I promise.
I know that.
So good to see you. I didn't know you were going to be in this call. Glad you're here.
Thank you. Yeah, Diana and I are good old friends. And Marquita, too.
Joshua, I was wondering, do most of the people who participate, have they studied theater or music or something at college, or are they real beginners, or what would you say?
Yeah, it is a really wide variety. We have people who have never sung in a choir before or never performed with us for the first time. We have people who have their doctorates in music or in theater or in their instrument. Our orchestra is actually made up a lot of UCF alumni. So we have a lot of people who played in the marching band or played in the orchestra. We have a 180 member symphony orchestra, and probably about 50 of them are UCF alumni. So it's, most people have done something. They sang in high school or college. They performed in community theater. They sang in their church choir, church orchestra, played in their church. But it's a wide range. We say at CFC Arts, we don't discriminate against race, gender, how much money you have, sexual orientation, or even talent. That's CFC Arts.
Well, Joshua,
Everyone is welcome.
everyone is welcome. You are one of the very few organizations who designed a program for patients of Alzheimer's. And that has affected my family. So that probably hasn't been able to continue during this, right? Because of the lockdown in those facilities. Will that come back?
Yeah, we hope it will. So that's our Musical Minds Choir, which started in 2015. Right before the shutdown, we had 4 different locations with over 100 people with early stages of Alzheimer's and dementia and their caregivers in choir rehearsal every single week. It was beautiful. And so what we've been doing is we've been creating those Musical Minds videos with our music director for that and sending those out to our partners to still get them out. And then we just started 2 weeks ago a live Musical Minds Zoom choir rehearsal. So we just started that, but we're not ready to go back in person, but hopefully one day we will be able to. So that's the same with them. So Musical Minds was the first program for arts and wellness, but we have about 45 of those programs. So everything from Alzheimer's and dementia to Parkinson's to cancer support, motor disabilities, autism, Down syndrome. We have partners that we do arts programs with with all of those, either cognitive or physical disabilities or varying abilities.
I have been very surprised with my mom because she's now in a memory care unit. There are people who are nonverbal, who don't speak at all, but when songs come on that they knew from when they were younger, they know every word and they sing along, and it just makes you cry to realize that this part of their memory has not been affected, and it makes them feel so competent then to have something like Musical Minds come in. And it's also wonderful to be able to share that with their families, because there's so many things now that they can't share. And I think all of your programs that reach out in the medical community are tremendous importance.
Thank you, Dinah. You're a great spokesperson for our work. Thank you. Yeah, we all know that music is powerful. Music is beautiful. But medically, music is the part of the lobe of your brain that recognizes music is one of the last parts of the brain to go in memory loss. And so there are times where people who are dealing with memory loss can recognize music and connect that to memories in a way that's really powerful. And I have seen that time and time again, where people have come into Musical Minds or our programs and they have been completely non-responsive. Don't remember why they're there, don't remember who we are. And then they sit down in rehearsal and a song comes that was maybe associated with their wedding or their kids growing up or when they went to college. And that head will lift, the eyes will sparkle, every single word from memory. It's just, it's truly magical. It's truly, truly magical and powerful. So yeah, it's important. Music's important.
I have watched that happen, and I have seen people who knew all the notes and could really just do this. And I had with my own mom, there were times when her memory is better than some. She's high functioning in Alzheimer's still, early stage, but well, not early, she's obviously in a memory care unit. But there are a lot of things she doesn't remember, or she gets the facts scrambled. And we were walking one day. She started to sing a song she remembered my father singing. She sang every word and every note. She turned to me and said, "He always sang that." And I have to tell you, that's one of the most moving moments I've ever had with my mom. And Musical Minds touches that and brings that back to families who don't feel that they have that strong connection anymore. It's just worth more than I could possibly say.
I appreciate you saying that. It's absolutely the truth. We're about to launch a program that will be virtual, but it is about really focused on caregivers for people who are dealing with memory loss, Parkinson's, things like that. And so it's an arts program specifically geared towards caregivers. and the journey that they're on. So we're excited about that as well, because there are two sides to memory loss. There's those that are dealing with memory loss and those that are affected by it. And so we're creating arts programs specifically for that right now.
Well, I know you have a giant team, Joshua, but you know where to find me.
Well, I appreciate that, Diana. We'll call on you for sure.
Good. I tend to volunteer, so I'm free
Yes,
labor.
you do, yes. I appreciate that.
Diana,
Alice,
it's Alice.
you
Can
have
you,
a question?
Alice,
Okay,
can you hear me, Alice?
I can.
Yes? Okay, Joshua, I'm Alice Dexter, and I'm a care manager, and I've been around here since the 60s, and I'm just getting ready to retire, 63 years of nursing, and I think it's my turn to retire. But I wanted to share a story with you about one of my patients who had a stroke, and her speech center was involved, and her daughter is pretty famous. She travels all over the world. She's a singer from Nashville, and she's a very famous lighting director. And she used to live here. She went to Highlands, and I took care of her mother here. I couldn't get her mother to verbalize words. She would try. So one time when Susan was out of the country, I made arrangements for her to call her mother while I was there on her phone, and she sang to her mother, and her mother verbalized words. And I did not hear you say anything about stroke patients. I heard you say everything else about medical people. But next year, if you need somebody on your board or you need a medical consultant, I would be happy to assist you.
Oh, Alice, that's wonderful. We actually don't do any programs specifically for recovering stroke patients. And so I'd love to learn more about that. And maybe Diana can introduce me to you by email, because I would love to learn more. And we're always looking for great volunteers for our programs that we do. So we'd love that.
I would love to also, I have a gerontology, I have had a gerontology practice. I'm in the middle of retiring, so next year I would be available. The ALFs, as that would segue in with what Diana was talking about, the ALFs and the seniors are my absolute love. And I would really love to see about introducing you to the ALFs that I've used in this community for all these years. If you're not connected. I would love to do that. I would love to meet you. Thank you.
Thank you. Nice to meet you, Alice. And I look forward to chatting with you.
Nice to meet you. Thank you.
Well, Joshua, we're coming up to the end here. Is there anything you were hoping we would ask you, or hoping we would talk about that we didn't cover? Because I hate for you to leave with any I not dotted or any T not crossed.
No, you guys asked wonderful questions. I can't believe it's been an hour already. I feel like we just got started. No, I think you asked great questions. If you want our website, it's cfcarts.com. You can keep up with all the things that we're doing. There are tons of free classes and workshops that are funded by the Winter Park Health Foundation, Universal Orlando, the City of Orlando, the West Orange Healthcare District. So if you're looking to take classes, go check out our website and sign up. You can learn how to play the ukulele, which is really fun right now. You can take painting classes, you can do singing classes, all sorts of stuff in the comfort of your home, and absolutely free because we have such generous foundations that fund us. So check out our website and come to a class with us.
Okay, we still have 5 minutes, so I'm going to ask how you're enjoying Baldwin Park.
Oh my goodness, I love Baldwin Park. I feel so lucky to live here. Okay, so here's the story. So I lived in Ventura Country Club. I don't know if anybody knows where Ventura is. I lived there for a long time. I owned a home there. And then I sold that home and I moved to a downtown apartment. And I thought I was so cool and so fancy. And I ended up not liking living in a downtown apartment. But actually when COVID happened, I was living on this 9th floor, right in downtown, right by the Dr. Phillips Center. And it was scary. That when COVID first started, we didn't know how it could spread and we just didn't know much about it. And so I was like scared to go in the elevator and scared to walk in the hallways. And I was trying to still lead CFC Arts and it just wasn't a good place for me. And someone who was really gracious, who owns a home here in Baldwin Park, who doesn't live here, said, hey, why don't you go stay at this home? And so you can go out and have nice walks, and you can just be in a good place while you're leading your organization. And so I came here for 3 months and just stayed here almost like an Airbnb. It was all their furniture. It was, I just kind of hung out here. It was really wonderful and overlooking the park. And so this person who loves CFC Arts, lives up in Tennessee, a few months ago said, would you ever want to rent the home? And made me a beautiful offer. And so I got to move here to Baldwin Park. So I have a lovely home here in Baldwin where Huckleberry and I take nice walks all around. And so, yeah, I love living here. It's really, really fantastic. And I hope to, when we can do it again, I hope to do concerts and events right here in Baldwin Park, in Blue Jacket Park. So.
You gonna go in Blue Jacket Park, or are you gonna go to City Center down there by the lake?
Both. Yes, and let's do both. The city of Orlando and their parks right now aren't approving permits larger than 50, gatherings of 50. So that was part of the reason why we weren't able to do some of the outdoor stuff in some of the city parks, because the city of Orlando specifically isn't allowing gatherings of more than 50.
Well, see, I'm being selfish, Joshua, because when people do shows in City Center, I can see them from my balcony.
Oh, well, perfect. So we'll have to do something at City.
Yeah, don't go over to Blue Jacket. Come over.
We'll definitely do something at City Center.
And you have, is he 12 weeks now, your dog?
Yeah, he actually just turned 12 weeks 2 days ago. So yeah, he's a puppy for sure. Actually, if we have 30 seconds, I'll grab him and I'll let
yes, grab him. He's adorable.
He's like, he's waiting for that. Let me grab him. Okay, this is Huckleberry.
Isn't he cute?
This is my little guy. He was sound asleep, so he's still kind of asleep, but.
Well, he would like to sleep upside down, kind of.
Yeah, he does. He likes to sleep upside down. He's a good boy. He's already 25 pounds though, and he's only 12 weeks. So he's gonna be a big. He's gonna be a big boy.
Oh, look at
Hi, everybody.
Perfect.
Hi, everybody.
He'll give us a little paw wave.
Yeah. He's going to the pumpkin patch tomorrow, so we'll see how he loves that.
Oh, how fun. Okay, let's just end this up and pretend that this is still about CFC Arts and not dogs and wonderful things. So what is your next show that you're selling right now?
Yeah, so the next thing is October 31st in the afternoon on Halloween. Our orchestra will be doing This Is Halloween, and that is at Mead Garden. And that's the very next thing that we're doing. And then in November, we start the holiday cabarets in our courtyard outdoors. And then in December, you can catch us in 5 or 6 different concerts around the community, all outdoors.
I look forward to all of the above, Joshua. Thank you so much for joining us this evening, especially on this kind of notice. Most of the people in this room do know that you found out it would be tonight last night. It's been just about exactly 24 hours. So thank you so much. I knew we'd be fine with you. You could do a Senate confirmation hearing on no notice. You're just that good. So
you're sweet.
It's been delightful.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm so glad it worked out. This has been a beautiful time of conversation, and thanks for supporting the arts, and thank you for all that each of you do in our community. And I'm looking forward to hopefully seeing you all outdoors at some point soon to hear some great music together.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Thank you.